Hello YouTube, it's DsChroniclesTho, and yes, you know how it goes. Another week, another chapter. However, before we get into this week's chapter, I think first we should do a quick little recap of what happened last week. Okay, so when we left off last week, I had just started community college. I actually just finished my first year. I did pretty decent. I did mess up on like one or two classes, but for the most part, I did pretty good that year. And after my second semester had finished, things with me and Lacey were looking up. They were looking good, and finally, after like a year and a half of dating, I told her, I said those words, I love you, and everything like that, and it was great. I mean, we both felt the same. It was very mutual, even though I already knew prior to that she did feel feel that way towards me. Like, it just took me a while to get there, just because I wanted to make sure that, like, when I said it for the first time, like, it was, like, for real and genuine and everything like that. So finally that had happened. We hit that milestone in our relationship. We got that landmark out the way. And I just knew, like, from that point on, things were just going to be getting better and better between us. So now we can go ahead and start this week's chapter. So that summer, it actually was just like any other summer, just like a lot of hanging out with each other, like spending a lot of time together, hanging out with friends, like going to places together, stuff like that. Like it was really like, I mean, it was pretty much like any other summer, like just a lot of like us hanging around, chilling around, shit like that. And then the school year starts again, and things in school start to go a little south for me, right? Next school year starts, and it's kind of it's kind of getting worse than the first year. So the first year, for the most part, I did all right, and only a couple classes I did bad in. Now this year, I'm doing bad in more classes. I'm failing more classes. I'm retaking some classes that I took last semester because I failed them. I was trying to get a better grade. I failed them again. Like it's just like school is just not not going good at all. I finished up that first semester poorly. Next semester starts. I passed like 2 classes. I failed the other ones. I actually got put on academic probation because I was doing so shit in school, and I was only able to take like 2 classes per semester. So then I was taking like 2 classes, and then I had to take summer class to try and make up for that semester that I missed out on. So that way, because at this point, I mean, I'm not gonna get my associates in 2 years. Like, it's a wrap. Like, it's literally impossible for me to get that. I failed too many classes. I'm not gonna get the associates in 2 years. It's gonna take me at least 3. But at this point, like, I don't want it to take more than 3. Like, if it takes like 3.5, 4 years, that's gonna fucking suck, right? So I'm just taking, even though I'm on probation, like I'm taking like classes in the summer, so I can like try and make up for these semesters that I'm missing out on and everything like that. And I'm doing that. I'm still doing bad. I'm still doing bad and everything. And I mean, it's starting to affect the relationship too, because just because I'm doing bad, so it doesn't mean that Lacey's doing shit in school. Like she's always been like type of person who's like always gets shit done. Like she's always getting shit done, and she's doing fine in school. And I mean, she's kind of looking at me like, bro, like this is not high school, like this is college. So you gotta like get your shit together. And it sucked because like we would like argue about it a lot, because it wasn't even, and it sucked because like it wasn't even about our relationship. Like our relationship was fine. It was just like shit outside the relationship that I was doing. Like it was like fucking us up. Like obviously she's not trying to be with somebody who's like doing shit in school. Like that's not a good look. And she was trying to help me. Like she would like try and like do homework for me. I mean, she would literally do homework for me. Like it's just I don't know what it was. Like it was just something about school. It just was never my thing. Like school has just always been so difficult. I can never get anything done. Like my only saving grace is the fact that like I do really great on tests and quizzes and speeches, shit like that. Like things that, like those big things that like are a big factor of your grade. Like obviously papers are gonna be like a big chunk of your grade, or speeches would be a big chunk, or quizzes and test scores and everything like that. Like those things that make up like big chunks of the grade. Like I'm fortunate enough that where I'm able to do well in those specific areas. However, when it comes to like all the little shit, like doing homework and turning things in, and I mean pretty much homework in general, like whenever it comes to anything like that, like I don't ever do it. Like there's something about it. Like I always forget to do it, or I'm doing it and it's just taking me so long that I just like fuck it. I'll just try and copy somebody at school like right before class or something. Like it was like it's just things like that that are like super tedious and like take a long time and you have to like focus on them and stuff like that. Like it just I couldn't do it. But if it's like in the spur of the moment, like you got okay, like look at this, you got to do take this right now, like finish this test right here, finish this quiz right here. Like I can do it. I mean, when it comes to speeches, like I'm really good at speeches. So like even if I'm not prepared, I can just go up there and just like freestyle a fucking 8 minute speech and like kill it. Like this just those are the things that like I was good at. So when it came to classes where that's like pretty much all you do, like I would do good in those classes. But when it comes to classes where like it's a lot of homework, it's a lot of reading, a lot of like shit like that, I fail every single one of them. And like I said, like Lacey would try and help me out. She would she would research the papers for me and like just talk to me like what it was about and then have me type it because I'm pretty good when it comes to typing papers. Like I can make it sound nice and shit like that. So she would like read like she would like explain to me like what she learned basically and I would just put it all into my own words on the paper. Or when it comes to homework, like she would like just say, "What was your homework for today?" And then most of the time, like I would never write shit down because I'm like I don't want to like I don't know. I just something about it. Like I never wanted to write it down. Like oh I just remember, and if I forget, then I forget. Whatever, fuck it. Like I just never had a good like outlook on school. And then she would ask me like what was the homework, and I'm like oh I don't even know. So then she would like log on to my fucking like student shit online to like see like what was the homework for the classes, you know. And then she would find it, and then she would. I mean, half the time she would like fucking do the homework for me, and then just like give it to me and have me turn it in for it, like have me turn it in for the grade and shit. But it was just like that's just how it was going. Like it's just school was just going like it was like it felt like every like as time moved forward, like school was just worse and worse and worse because like in the beginning, like I said, like I did like do better in like one or two classes, but for the most part I did pretty solid. Like I was getting like B's and C's and shit. And now is like the fucking school like now is like time is moving forward, like I'm lucky to get a D in a class. Like I'm just like it was just school was just worse and worse and worse and worse. And I remember like I was with her and we were at her place and like we were talking like it came up again because she asked like oh like what was your like what is your grade in your classes right now. I remember this was in October and like that year as long as like after that semester, as long as I did like all right that semester, the following semester I would be able to do full time again. I would be able to do like be a full time student. I would be off of probation, and I can take the last four classes I would need. And as long as I do good in those four classes, then I would get my associates. So even though it was gonna take me the 3 years, I was still gonna be able to get it done. And actually, it would have been like nice too because of the fact that like I said, like she was Lacey has always been good in school, but it's just math is one of those subjects where she just struggles with, and she had been struggling with it, and she had to like take it, she had to retake it, and she actually was putting it off for like towards the end because I mean when you're getting associates like there's certain classes you have to take right your gen eds and shit like that, and she was like putting that off towards the end because she was like I know this is gonna be like really hard for me, so I want to like put that towards the end so that way I can like just like get everything else done and I can just like focus a lot more on that specific class and I can just take like some like random bullshit electives at the same time so I don't really have to like put too much attention focus on that shit. So she had done that and she had to take the class again because she wasn't able to get it. And so what was going to end up happening was she was going to end up also taking the 3 years to get the degree. So it would have worked out because we both like even though I was like fucking up a lot of shit, like I still found a way to like get my shit done to where I could catch up to her, you know, because I didn't want her to like get ahead of me in school. Like I wanted us to like still be like aligned together in that shit, right? So right now I was like in the fall like I was fall 2013 and then spring 2014 semester I would get my associates, right? So right now I'm in that fall 2013 semester and it's in October. And that's when me and like Lacey are talking about it, and she's asking me about my grades in school because I just took in my midterms and shit like that. So she wanted to like check up on it to see like and make sure I'm doing good and everything. And I tell her like you know like I'm not like it didn't turn out too good. Like I did all right on the quizzes, but I'm still as long like I have to like fucking ace like everything going forward in order to like come out with a C in the class. And I mean it was like a huge fucking argument, and then she was like yelling, saying like like, why don't you take school seriously? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, you're so lazy when it comes to work and yada, yada, yada. And just, like, it was just, she was, like, just so fed up, you know, with, like, of me just not performing to, like, where she thought that I should be at. Because, like, I mean, she knew, like, she felt like I was a smart person. Like, I'm not, like, some dumb guy who, like, can't get shit done. Like I said, like, I'm able to, like, ace tests and quizzes and, like, speeches and papers and everything like that, like, very easy. It's just when things, like, happen that I need to, like, focus a lot of attention on. It's just, I struggle with all those assignments or anything like that. So she kept, like, she was just, like, yelling and yelling and yelling. And then I was, finally, I just, like just let it out. I was just yelling back, like saying, like, you know, like it's hard for me to do this stuff. Like, whenever I had to read books, like, it fucking takes me like 3 hours to read like 2 chapters. Or like when I'm doing homework, like, I had to reread the exact same question like over and over and over and over. And then I'm always like, there's always things going on in my head. Like, I'm always thinking about other things I could be doing. I'm always like thinking about like things I'd rather be doing because this is so like boring. Or like I get distracted. Like, if I don't know, there's like a fucking fly like flies in my face. Like, I'm stuck like trying to chase this fly for like 5 hours because it just like distracted me while I was trying to do the work, you know. And I'm just talking about how like I can't, like, when I'm trying to read a chapter, like while I'm reading lines, like there's like thoughts going in my head. I start thinking about like what I'm thinking about, and like my mind drifts off. So, you know, I'm explaining all this stuff to her, and then like finally she cuts me off and she goes, you know, based off of what you're saying, have you ever thought maybe you might have ADHD? And when she said it, I was like, the fuck you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? No. And she was telling me how, like, you know, one of my friends, like, they have like a sibling who has ADHD, and a lot of the things that you're saying, like, that like you're struggling with, or that like go on in your head and shit like that, like, they also have like experienced those exact same things. And I was like, no, 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 like that's not what's going on. Like, that's not what's going on. That's not what it is. And then she was like, well, then can you explain like how, like, can you explain like all the things that like that you're saying are like going on in your head when like you're trying to do work? Like is there any other explanation to why that's happening? And I was trying to think, and I was like, I don't know. I just think a lot. Like like I just like there was I had nothing like to say. Like I was just like, I don't know. Like it made so much sense if that were to be the case. However, I just wasn't like I wasn't. I don't know. I think I just feel like I wasn't okay with saying that at the time. You know, like I didn't want that to be a thing. Just because like I'd always try to like make myself seem like I'm like some perfect ass dude. Like I always try to like make it seem like, oh dude, like Dylan's got his shit together, or like Dylan's fucking good, like Dylan's good at whatever he does, Dylan's good at everything, like yada yada. Like I always like I spent like so much time in like trying to like convince people that like that's how I was, or like that's what was going on with me and everything like that. So it's like if I were to have ADHD, like, oh my god, I'm not perfect, you know. And that like was really that like really got to me, and I was like, well, like no, like it can't, that can't be it, that can't be that can't be it. And like the conversation just ended right there, and then like we just like moved on, and then it was like the rest of the day was just like whatever, right? And I mean, once she planted that seed, it was like Inception, dude. Like once that idea was placed in my head, like I couldn't fucking think of anything else. Like it's just from that moment on, like every single fucking day, like I would wake up, I would think about it. I would go to sleep, I would think about it. Like throughout the day, I would always think about it. Like damn, what if that's me? Like what if that's me? What if that's me? What if that's me? Right? And so it got too much, and I was like, you know what? Like fuck it. Like I'm gonna research this shit, and I'm gonna prove that that's not what's going on with me. You know, like I'm gonna prove that I don't have it. Like I'm gonna prove that like no, like just like I don't know, I'm going through a phase, or like I'm in a rut or some shit. I don't know. Like so I researched it, and I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up, and then I'm just like everything I find out, I'm like, well, fuck, that's my life. Fuck, that's my life. Fuck, that's my life. That's my life. That's my life. It's like, fuck, this explains my entire life. This explains everything. Like, it was, it was so bad. Like, even things that like I would never associate with ADHD. Like, that shit fucks with it. Like, it's just like everything about like my entire existence, basically, like all of it just fucking made sense if you just put that one little puzzle piece in there. Like the whole fucking picture is complete. Like it was so bullshit, dude. I was so mad. Like I was so mad. I was so mad that was really it. And I mean, I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't want to tell anybody. Like I didn't want to say shit. I was like, what the like. I've gone through my whole life just thinking like I'm fucking this perfect human being, and now like there's something up, you know. Like I couldn't accept it, and I was just trying to like keep it a secret, keep it on the down low, but I didn't want to do bad in school anymore. So I like looked up some tricks and shit that like I saw like forums or blogs and shit like that, like people like saying like what they did to like try and help them like study or like do work and shit like that. And even though I didn't want to admit out loud that I had it, I mean internally I knew I did, and I knew that if I were to look up like different ways to like trying to help me out in school, like I would not, even if everything I tried failed, I was still gonna be in the exact same spot I already was, you know. So I started doing things differently. One thing that somebody that I saw someone do was that they listen to music. So I would listen to music when I did work, or when I was like reading books, or when I had to like focus on something. I would like have music playing. I would like put in headphones, or I mean it was primarily headphones, but in some certain instances, like sometimes I like to have like music just like playing really loud around me, and it kind of made sense to me, like because it started working. Like it really did work, and it made sense because like my entire life, like music has always been a big thing for me. And the more I utilize that like technique and utilize that method when doing work, I realized that like whenever I was listening to music, the reason I enjoyed it so much was because like when I'm listening to music, like my brain kind of just turns off. Like I don't have so many things going on in my head. Like I don't have so many thoughts. It kind of like clears everything out, and I'm able to just like think in peace, you know. And that's the reason it was working so well when I was doing homework, or when I have to like read chapters or like focus on anything, because when the music was going, like I was able to just focus on one specific thing, you know. And like for me that helped a lot. And I mean in fact it helped so much that like I was getting like a D like in my classes. Like after the midterm I was like it was like a high D, right? And by the end of that semester I turned it around, and I was able to come out like with like C's. I even think I had like a B in one of those classes. Like it was like straight C's and like a B, which I mean, saying it out loud to like people who are like good in school, like I'm sure like that shit sounds garbage, right? But like for me, that was such a big improvement because like I said, I've been struggling for like the past like 2 years. Like, this is like my third year now. Like going like about to like finish up my third year now at the community college trying to get my associates, and I had like fucked up like all my classes like from like almost like since day one. Like in the beginning, I was already failing classes, and as time went on, I was failing more and more classes, and now I like, was able to find a way to like turn that shit around, even though it was like already like kind of late in the semester, right? So we get into our next semester. It's like my final semester, and then I'm like once again able to be a full time student. So I can take the last 4 classes I need to graduate. I can do all of that last semester, and now I have like a new technique that I can utilize to like do good in school again. I can like finish it up and like finish it strong, you know, and like I'll be able to graduate, and I'll be at the same pace as Lacey, because she's on her last semester and she was actually able to pass her math class. So now all she needs are like a couple like miscellaneous like electives that she missed out on. She didn't realize that like she didn't take them already, so she had to like take a couple electives just to finish that up, and then she would be done too. So things were looking up, and then like since that ended up helping me, I figured like, you know what, fuck it. Like I just finished up this semester like doing these tricks that people with ADHD use. I know myself that I have it. Like nothing, there's no doubt in my mind that I have this shit. And I feel like at this point I just want to get it like official. I just want to like have this shit out there. And so actually I ended up going to like my doctor because I had to get a referral to go to a psychologist to get like a diagnosis and shit like that. I had to go through all the insurance shit, right? Because I was gonna pay that shit out of pocket. Like, I mean, what the fuck? Like, that's a lot of money. Um, so I mean, first things first was I ended up telling like my parents and shit, and like my siblings, like, oh yeah, I think I have ADHD, and they were like, what the fuck? Are you sure? But like, cause like I said, like I mean, nobody really like had shit going on, so it didn't really make sense for me to like come out and be like say that shit. And I explained it to them, and I told them like why I thought I had it, and then they were like, oh well, that makes sense, blah 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 blah. So then I go to my doctor and I tell him like, yo, I think I have ADHD. I would like to like actually find out for sure. And then he's like, all right, for sure, I can get you a referral. So he gets me a referral to a psychologist. And it was funny because like when I went to the dude, he was like, I get there right for my appointment or whatever. And then I walk in and he, like, this first thing he asked me was like, so Dylan, what would you like to accomplish out of these sessions or whatever? Because I was allotted like X amount of sessions, and within those sessions I was supposed to figure out whatever the fuck I was trying to figure out or whatever. And then I was like, well, honestly, I just want to know if I have ADHD. Like, that's point blank. I just want to know that. So if you can just tell me right now, like, give me a test, like, quiz me, if I can ask me some questions, like, whatever, do what you gotta do. I just want to know right now so I can like go on about my day. And he was like, well, it doesn't really work like that. Like, I'm gonna have to like talk to you, get to know you, like figure out like all this other shit about you, background, blah 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 blah. Like, long story short, he was like, it's gonna take a couple sessions for me to really get to the nitty gritty about it, you know. And I was like, well, whatever. I got nothing but time, right? So we're doing that. I'm doing these sessions. They're like 45-minute sessions like every week, and like it's just like a lot of like talking about how are you feeling, like are you also schizophrenic, like do you like I don't know sleepwalk or something. I don't know. Like, you just asking like a bunch of like shit that like I was like nah, I'm cool, like nah, I'm not bipolar, bro, like nah, I'm not depressed or I'm not schizophrenic. I don't hear voices. Like it was just like a lot of like other shit that he was trying to figure out, you know. And I was like, no, it doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to me. Like like I said, I just want to know, do I got ADHD? Do I not got ADHD? Like, just tell me right now. So then finally it gets like the day, and it's like he tells me, okay, on this day we're gonna do quizzes, we're gonna do tests, we're gonna do questionnaires, we're gonna fill in the bubbles, like all this shit, right? And we're gonna get down to it. We're gonna figure out if you got it or not. So I was pumped, you know. I go there, and I did not know like how long these fucking tests are, because what he tells me is like when I get there on that day, he tells me, you know, first, before I can tell you whether or not you have ADHD, I need to be able to see how much it actually affects you. So we're gonna do an IQ test, and after the IQ test, we're gonna do like the questions and shit. And I'm gonna ask you and try and figure out if you have ADHD or not. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like I'm pretty good at tests and quizzes and shit. You know, like I'll take this IQ test. I don't give a fuck. So I take it, and this test is long as hell. Like, I think in total that day, because I did the IQ test, and then right after that, I did the shit for like the ADHD test or questions or whatever the fuck it's called. And it was like, I was there for like 3 hours, dude. Like 3 hours straight of just like questions and questions and questions and questions. That shit was ridiculous. And the IQ test was actually really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I thought I did pretty well when I did it. I felt like I did okay. I mean, it's like, obviously he didn't grade it like right then and there, but I feel like I did good, right? So after that, we do like the questions asked me, like, I want you to answer this like in terms of like every day, every other week, never, some shit like that. Like, I don't know, just like how often these things apply to your everyday life, right? So he's asking me things like, when you're talking to when someone's talking to you, do you blurt shit out with like and interrupt them? And it's like, I'm like, well, yeah, all the fucking time. And he's like, okay, well, does this apply to you every day? Does it apply to you like once a week or like twice a week or some shit like that, or like not at all? I'm like, that's every fucking day. That's every fucking second. Like, when someone's talking to me, like in their middle, like they'll like, let's say they're talking about a sandwich, right? They'll be talking about like some sandwich they ate. And then in my head, I'm like, dang, I really like bologna sandwiches. Like, while they're talking about like the sandwich they ate, I'm just gonna like fucking interrupt them. I like bologna sandwiches. Like, and it's just like gonna come out. Like, there's no like, it's like 0 to 100 real quick. Like, there's like no like stops on the way coming out, or like, I don't know, if someone's talking about like how their day was like shitty. Like, they'll say shit, and then like maybe they'll say something like, and I was wearing a pink shirt, and then in my head I'm like, dang, I really like pink highlighters. Like, I'll just interrupt them and be like, I really like pink highlighters because of the fact that like yellow highlighters may be brighter. However, the tips on the yellow highlighters, when you like highlight shit, it gets like black sometimes and gets all smudgy and shit like that. But with pink highlighters, you don't really have to worry about that shit because it kind of like keeps its color, kind of stays solid and shit like that. And then like I'll interrupt with like that interjection in the middle of their like their story and shit. Like, so I told him like, yeah, dude, it happens to me all the fucking time, man. Just like this stuff like that happens all the time, right? So he's like asking me all these questions, and it's like an hour and a half worth of like questions. Like, Does this happen to you? 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 And finally we're done, right? Finally we're done. And he says, all right, I'm going to shuffle through these answers, look through the data, find your results. I'll get back to you. Give me like 2-3 weeks, and I'll call you for our next appointment. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I leave, and I leave the feeling like I feel leaving kind of accomplished. I'm like, yes, finally I'm gonna be able to know like for a fact. Like even though I feel like I know, internally, I feel like I already know what the answer is gonna be. At least now it's gonna be like official, like fucking stamp of approval type shit, right? And so like the weeks go by, and then he finally like contacts me again, and he tells me, all right, we're gonna set up your appointment, and when you come in, I'll tell you. So I'm like, sweet. So I show up, and then he's like going over the data, and he's like, all right, I know you've been waiting for a really long time to know whether or not you have ADHD, and I'm just gonna get straight to the point. In my professional opinion, I think, yes, you do have it. Also, in my professional opinion, I believe it does greatly affect you on your day-to-day livings and shit like that, right? And then he's like, also, in my professional opinion, I think you would greatly benefit from taking medication. I think you should be on that shit because this is kind of fucking with you a lot, right? And then, like, he tells me all this shit, right? I'm like, well, fuck, like that's not what I expected to hear, Like I expected him to be like, yeah, you kind of got it, or like, yeah, you probably got it, or some shit like that. But he was like, yeah, bro, like you got it, you need help, like you need pills because you fucked up. Like I was like, damn, I didn't know it was that bad. And then he like goes into like, he's like, let me explain like your results and all that other shit, right? And then he's like going over it, and then he's like telling me like why he felt like I had it and everything like that based on my questions. And he's going over my IQ test, and he's telling me, he's like, the reason, like I told you, like I wanted to explain to you like how much it's affecting and everything like that based off of your IQ. Like I need to know like about how smart you are in general to see like how much is really fucking with you. And he was saying like was going over my IQ test, and he was saying like the reason I feel that like no one ever told you, because the thing about like having like ADD or ADHD or anything like that, it's like generally speaking, when someone has it, like they're like diagnosed like as like kids, like by like a teacher or some shit like that, like when they're still like small and shit, like not when you're fucking 21 years old, like it's not that fucking late, or like 20 years old, however I was at the time. It's not that late in life when someone tells you, right? So he's like, the reason I think it took so long is because based off your IQ, like my score was 122. So 122 was like my like official, like when he took the test or whatever, like that's what I got, right? And he was saying like based off of that, like my intelligence is like a little bit better than most people or whatever, right? So I'm like, all right, sweet. Like at least now I know, like based off of this test, I actually am kind of smart. So like that was pretty cool. And then he tells me, he's like, but because of that, your ADHD, even though it affects you like greatly and shit like that, you're able to kind of like overcompensate it, and you're able to like kind of mask it because of the fact that like you are a little bit smarter than normal. Like people can't really pick up on it because like even though like you're being hindered down to like an average person. So like that's why it doesn't really seem like anything was ever wrong with you. It probably just seemed like you were like lazy or like really talkative or something like that in classes. And it's funny when he said that because I remember thinking back like through all of like elementary and like fucking kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, like how like they give you report cards, you have to take them home and your parents sign them and shit. Then they bring them back, and on the little thing it says like satisfactory, outstanding, needs improvement, like all that shit like on your report card. And teachers always have their fucking comments, And my comments were always like, Dylan needs to do his work. He's always talking in class, blah 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 blah. Like he's too social. He needs to stop talking, do his work, blah blah blah. Like all that shit. Like I always got those fucking comments. So it was really funny that he said that because like that kind of is like what happened, And so finally, like, he tells me everything like that, and then I was like, I mean, when I left, I was happy because even though, like I said, I wasn't expecting him to say like it's really fucking with you. Like I was expecting him to say like, oh yeah, you kind of got it a little bit, Even though like it was more than what I was looking for, or like more than like I like hoped for, or like more than like I thought. Like at least I had an answer, like a definitive answer. Like this is what it was, and this is the reason. I mean, not to say like this is my excuse on why I'm doing bad in school, but just like it finally gave me like a reason on why like I never was good, you know. Like it wasn't that like I wasn't capable of doing it. Or it wasn't cuz like I just like your school was like too difficult for me or something like that. It was just because I didn't know that like this shit was fucking with me. Like I didn't know how to like go about it. I didn't know how to like get around it. I didn't know like how to like do things differently so that way like I would be able to find a way to get past it, you know? So it's like so now finally like I should be able to just not have school be fucking such a challenge for me, and I should be able to just you know like do good even though it's like the end and I'm about to get my associate's degree and like be done with that shit. Like finally like moving forward like I'll be able to like utilize these skills and shit like that and like utilize like this information like even like in areas bigger than school, like in different things like or at work or like in like my everyday life and shit like that. Like because it's not like ADHD is only gonna fuck with you like in one specific setting, you know? Like it's not like this is only affecting me here. Like even during the questions like I knew that like, it was affecting me in other areas of my life, but now that I know like I can like use the like this knowledge and like try and like